Mr. Walter, you may begin. Thank you.
Chairman Van Drew, Ranking Member Crockett, distinguished members of the subcommittee, thank you for the honor of testifying. I'm president of the Capital Research Center, where we study money flows to nonprofits and other special interests. America's nonprofit sector is one of her glories, the envy of the world. But though I admire many American nonprofits, including, for instance, the Heritage Foundation, I don't want tax dollars going to Heritage or to my own nonprofit. And neither they nor we ever have or will accept a penny of government money. If tax dollars ever go to a nonprofit, it should probably be performing biblical good works, healing the sick, feeding the hungry, clothing the naked, and the like. Tax dollars should never go to nonprofits best known for pushing controversial social issues or meddling in politics here and abroad. Yet that is what so many federally funded nonprofits, especially those receiving USAID funding, have done. This improper funding harms both the charitable sector and our politics. It harms innocent American nonprofits abroad by stigmatizing all American nonprofits. I've heard from leaders of those nonprofits who resent their genuine good works being ignored as they become, in local eyes, just one more American NGO fighting for Soros's hard left agenda. Imagine you're a nonprofit leader who struggles to raise private funding as she desperately fights human trafficking in a poor country. Meanwhile, a wealthy Soros-funded network of NGOs in the same country, receiving the American government's imprimatur through USAID funds, is loudly trying to decriminalize the very prostitution that's the engine driving the human trafficking you're trying to stop. This left-wing collusion of government and NGOs not only hurts your noble charitable work directly, it also makes local citizens and government view you as the enemy. The same improper funding hurts our politics as well. We hear a lot about so-called dark money in politics. But what is darker than the funding of alleged charities that work in foreign countries to elect politicians they like to, say, the European Parliament, or to enact government policies involving controversial issues like prostitution and abortion, or even to change entire regimes? Much evidence has been published on the Soros' network trying to do these things, as well as on the NGO networks of other American billionaires, including those with the same last name, Foundation. My written testimony documents massive amounts of tax dollars going to numerous improper grantees. Examples include the 15 groups receiving federal funds who sued the current administration in just its first month. 4 were Justice Department grantees, 3 USAID grantees. Then there's Trans-Latina Coalition, a radical group that advocates for, among other things, expanding abortion, abolishing ICE, and one day abolishing the police. It received funding from Justice as well as Labor and HHS. Fully half its 2023 revenues came from government, proving that so many NGOs, non-governmental organizations, are really BGOs, basically government organizations. Another group should especially worry this Judiciary Committee, the Environmental Law Institute, which receives funds not only from Justice, but also from the EPA, the National Science Foundation, and the Departments of Homeland Security, Agriculture, and State. It runs the notorious Climate Judiciary Project, which allegedly educates federal and state judges on climate issues, but whose speakers, as one critic notes, come exclusively from the Climate Tort Bar's witnesses and amicus brief filers. Senator Cruz accurately describes it as ex parte indoctrination. Many more grantees boosting the left's agenda occur in the immigration field. As one critic puts it, billions of tax dollars have been used to construct a shadow immigration system that operates in direct defiance of U.S. federal immigration law, yet is financed partly by congressional appropriations. One Justice Department grantee in this area is Chinese for Affirmative Action, which denounced Secretary Rubio's policy of revoking visas for persons tied to the Chinese Communist Party as racist and dangerous. Another Justice grantee and contractor is the Acacia Center for Justice, spun off from the Vera Institute, a hard-left, Soros-backed group famous for its soft-on-crime, soft-on illegal immigration advocacy. It received $769 million from the last administration, though it insists no immigrant should be detained, electronic surveillance of illegal aliens must be abolished, and the use of local law enforcement for immigration purposes must be dismantled. If this funding were put to a vote of the American public, little to none of it would survive the democratic process. This funding is democracy suppression. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walter.
This will be for our Republican witnesses. What are some of the worst federal grants that the Biden-Harris administration approved?
I too am overwhelmed a little by the question, and I default to a website actually that we have called the testifies.org, which lists what we believe to be the worst grants from most of the main departments of the federal government.
Mr. Walter, how much federal funding has Arabella Advisors Network received?
Surprisingly, there's not a large quantity of that, although Mr. O'Neill's written testimony documents some of the examples to the New Venture Fund and elsewhere.
Mr. Walter, would you say that the current version of usaspending.gov is compliant with this law?
No, as you point out, there seems to be evidence that it hasn't. Plus, there's a huge thing that needs to be done. The grants are not listed by the grantee's EIN number, their tax ID number, which would make it enormously simpler to find what you're looking for.
Right. Oh, so you mentioned your website, dogefiles.org.
Yes.
I imagine it's fair for me to say that there are things in dogefile.org that I couldn't find on USA.
Well, we used USA Spending to get it, but believe me, it's a struggle to use it.
Difficult.
It needs to be much better.
It was not easy. Okay. What can we do on this committee to ensure that agencies under our jurisdiction are complying with existing transparency requirements?
Well, I'm not aware of any accountability, right? So if I'm an agency and I don't do what I'm supposed to, who cares? What happens if anybody even finds it out?
Okay. How can we increase transparency and accounts for sub-awards and subcontracts? Is that part of the problem that it goes to, there's a contract, but then I think Mr. O'Neill maybe alluded to some of this, and then it goes to a contractor who then awards it to another subcontractor, and the money cannot be followed.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that sort of information on USA Spending, but absolutely not all of it. And some of the most notorious things in the last administration were, some of the green slush funds that got created in the billions.
Very good. Okay, thank you very much for your testimony. I yield back.
Mr. Now, because I would, and normally, we get along, I try to, but Mr. Walter, can you explain why Soros's model is far more dangerous to public policy and democratic accountability than people realize?
Certainly. And by the way, I'm happy to give the ranking member an example of illegality. There are documents from Soros's own 501c3 nonprofits that show that money was being spent to influence elections to the European Parliament. And of course, that's a violation of 501c3 limitations on political activity. I'd be happy to provide the documents to you if you'd like.
Were they charged with that?
Excuse me?
Were they charged? Were there criminal charges brought?
Sadly, no, nor was there ever a hearing in Congress about it. But there's also the question of our next report on Ms. Soros is going to show over $80 million going to nonprofits that support terrorism. And again, that is debatably not kosher under 501c3 laws. But the way the network operates is you have, in the case of Soros, dozens, even hundreds of things. There's an Open Society Macedonia. There's an Open Society Prague, on and on. Many of these entities getting federal tax dollars as well as Mr. Soros's private monies. And as Ms. Gonzalez was explaining, they are willing to go up to and including regime change, as well as trying to change who's elected to the European
Mr.
Parliament.
Walter, and I assume that's why you would think this is dangerous. Am I right, Mr. Walter?
Yes. Yes.
I mean, this is a dangerous situation, and you even bring a good point. Some of it very well may be illegal, but at the very, very least, it's disturbing, distasteful, of concern, and that's why we're having the hearing. The American people, I know, and I wish millions are watching this. Quite frankly, they're not. Deserve to know about this disturbing information. That's the point of this.
One of the quick thing, too, by the way,
Please quickly, because I have other questions.
Ambassador DeBaca's has been a hero in fighting human trafficking. Soros, on the other hand, is one of the greatest pushers of decriminalizing prostitution throughout the entire world, which is one of the engines of human trafficking. There's a journal article on precisely that.
Thank you, Mr. Walter. To all of you, for each of you, very briefly, is there one reform Congress should pursue to stop the hijacking of federal dollars for activism that is this extreme? Like in 10 seconds each. We'll start with you, Mr. Walter. One reform, what is it?
Forcing greater transparency on where the federal tax dollars go, including the grantees of the grantees.
I agree.
That's right. Do a thorough audit of what these programs are, who the main implementer is in each country. This is really necessary.